is larger than life. It is called Texas high school football. Only one show can bring the greatest sport from the greatest state into focus. Lone Star Gridiron.
StarGridiron.com. Access the complete history of Texas high school football, over 100 years of information, win-loss records, coaching histories, individual stats, records, and more. Lone Star Gridiron, the authority on Texas high school football.
Hey, everybody. Welcome out to day 3 of our 2022 UIL football state championship live stream recap. I'm going to see if I can come up with any more words to put in.
You may want to pre-record that, Chris, so then you can just play it. A tongue twister.
I only have to do it one more time. Anyway, I'm Chris Daly, joined by Brett Swinney and Terry Bennett. How are you guys doing today?
Doing well. A little football tired.
Doing great.
Well, again, we're not getting the best games. We got another good one, but geez, I was expecting more close ones.
Oh, Terry's even supporting the hat tonight. He's got his China Spring hat on. Look at there.
Yeah, we got a China Spring fan that sent us a hat in this year, so they won state. Hat. So we gotta celebrate them. I thought 2 of the 3 games were good. The last game was better than the score, really.
Oh yeah. Again, it just turned. Let's jump into the first game, get it over with, pull the bandage off.
Hey Terry, I feel like that Chris doesn't really want to talk about this first game.
I don't know why.
Hey, what can I say? I was rooting for Wimberley. Did not expect them to win.
How long, Chris? Let me be honest with us, Chris. How long did you think that Wimberley had a chance in this game once it got started?
Once it got started?
Yeah. I know you thought they had a chance at the beginning. You thought that they played. How long did it
fumble?
take?
The first fumble, I'll admit, you go, okay, wait a minute. Is this one of those games? And then I've never seen 2 teams back-to-back 4th down fumbles.
Yeah.
Just gave it right back to them, yeah. And
I think the scary thing about this game, I don't think Carthage played even 50% of as quality as that they could have played. Right. They were making a ton of mistakes today. It's just they were so overmatching that it didn't matter.
Well, what I saw there was Stover was I don't know, his lack of experience really showed.
Oh yeah,
they took him out of his game real early, and once his game was gone, all they had to do was key on Johnny Ball, and you can't do it with just one guy.
Yeah, they had Ball. They were putting a bunch of guys in the box, and they weren't going to let Ball beat them at all. Very good game plan from Surratt. They forced the young quarterback to try to make plays, and just didn't happen.
I love the broadcast. They do a really, really good job. But I was chuckling the few times they kept saying, well, for people that look at Carthage, they probably don't realize how great this defense is. And I'm thinking everybody in the 4A world, we thought of it the exact opposite. When you thought Carthage this year, you thought defense. Oh, and that offense turned out to be really, really good as well. So I was kind of chuckling how they just kept trying to make it sound like nobody knew this Carthage defense was going to be this good. And we're all going, yeah, we did. Everybody
the whole team. We knew the whole team was going to be good. The offense, defense, special teams. And I'm not a, stats guru, but even, I knew that, it's not like Carthage came out of nowhere and surprised anyone this year. Everyone knew they were going to be really good.
Yeah. And the stats bear that out. It was just ugly. And Wimberley has 100 yards rushing, and about 85 of that is when it doesn't matter. The same with the passing. They had 127 yards passing, but 2 interceptions. Connor Cuff, he only completed 14 passes, but they were for 299 yards and 4 touchdowns. That's absolutely crazy.
Over half of them were to his buddy Patty.
Noah Patty. Holy moly, he was such a mismatch. They could not. They weren't even on the same field as him half the time.
And let's not forget Montreal Hatton, who might be the more complete wide receiver, was banged up and didn't play in this game.
Yeah.
Well, who needs that guy? Just throw somebody else out there. I mean, that's the way Carthage is. Next man up. It's just a machine at this
Right.
point. I mean, they're already talking about next year. They're being just as good. So I just it's insane. I don't know. Surratt's got it rolling. Whatever he's feeding those guys out there in Carthage, man, it's good. And then they did make a comment on air that I like. Talked about how the staff had stayed together and they were friends, and like you see that a lot. You have a head coach and maybe he's a good coach, and he gets a coordinator and they go somewhere else, and being able to maintain that staff like that. I mean, that probably helps a lot to keep the stability.
And that goes back to ISDs paying good salaries to get these guys, because we have Coach X, and Coach X is all fun enough, but Coach X is a real coach, and he has won state championships as a coordinator. And I've asked him, have you had state or head coaching aspirations? He said yes, but as long as where I'm at, they keep paying me really good money with less responsibility, and I can just play with the offense all year. He goes, I'm going to keep doing that. And Carthage does that. Franklin keeps their staff. Franklin's even crazier, because if you look at their staff, like they had a thing yesterday on the game. I think 9 of the coaches were from Franklin.
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy right there. Of course, we all knew Mark Fannin played there and everything, but for him to be able to bring hometown guys who had college degrees, who wanted to coach, first off, it just shows you how much football is revered in Franklin for that small town to have that many coaches in general. But for them all to be on that staff, you're right, Brett. That's where you start winning games, is things like that. That's where Reginald Samples won. That whole South Oak Cliff staff used to be Skyline staff 10 years ago, and now they've got their own little crew at South Oak Cliff that's been there for 8 years, and that's where it starts.
Yeah, well, that's normal in Texas high school football, is groups of people, gaggles of coaches moving together, because if you're an assistant, you're a position coach, and you get on with somebody who you can believe in their system, you pick up your family and you follow them. I've done so many of these coaches interviews in my off-season show, and we go stop by stop everywhere they stop. And 90% of the time, before their head coach, it's moving with their head coach before they become a head coach. Once they become a head coach, they pull as many of their people as they can with them, which is why, I think Carthage has done so well is just exactly what you said. Scott Surratt has a system. He has support from the community, and they're not being nabbed, by and far. I mean, every once in a while, one will get pulled to another position. But
well, why would you want to leave?
Well, if
I'm a position coach or whatever,
let's say you're an offensive coordinator for Scott Surratt, and you've got 8, 9 state championships. You've got some people who are reaching out to you. You've got colleges reaching out to you.
I'm sure, but they'll be back again. You can continue to win.
A college job, even though Texas pays great, it doesn't pay what an FBS college pays.
Well, it also it's that person's individual aspirations too. Jeff Traylor, when he first went back to Gilmer, I think if I'd have asked him in 2004, is this it? He'd be like, I don't want to, this is the job. I'm back home. I'll stay here forever. Well, then he got better, and he got better as a coach, and the team got better. And then colleges started talking to him. And then he said, wait a minute, now I kind of want to see what it's like in the college world. So that's why it makes these staffs that stay together so interesting, because at some point your coordinators have to kind of take a shine off of their ego. Because they're going to be like, hey, I'm going to be happy to be the Katy defensive coordinator for 19 years, even though Joseph, everybody's going to point to him as that's why Katy's defense is so good. And so it's a bit of humility that has to be in there for those coaches as well.
But it's also job security and your family dynamic. You want your kids to stay in the same school district, and you don't want to move them around. So depending on their relationship, their wife may say, look, if we can stay, let's stay.
Mm-hmm.
Again,
that's
all
you're
pretty safe. Surratt's not going anywhere. I mean, I would imagine he's not. I mean, at this point, he's won this much. I mean, he's getting calls too, but you're a pretty safe bet that he's not going anywhere. So now you can. I mean,
You
I don't
would
know.
say that, but I mean, look at Traylor, his deal he got for $10 million, $20 million or something.
Well,
Yeah.
and then to pull back the thing about coaches and stuff, and people might not know this, but when you're an educator in Texas, you can retire after so many years,
Yes.
basically take a little bit off, and then you get back into it. And it's called double dipping, and you start adding up the years of Scott Surratt, and he's got his son will be a sophomore next year, so 3 more years. That's putting him around that 20-year part. And I think he's actually been longer because he was also a coordinator, and so he'll retire eventually and maybe go back somewhere else.
Yeah, he'll probably do the what you're talking about, the retire rehire thing.
Yeah, the double dip.
A lot of coaches do it.
Yeah, that's why what's his name from Allen went down to I can't remember what school it went down to now, and it was not a power school, but it was because they were the highest payroll in the state of Texas, and they take that your average on your retirement. They take your last 3 years, and so you want to hit that higher income, and then
it's just your top 5 or 3 depending on when you started. Yeah, I'm the same thing as working.
Yeah, because you're in the same thing, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter if it's your last 5.
Okay, I got
it's your top.
Okay, I got
you. But if you're trying to get years towards your retirement and you've already got your top, you could go take less money, kind of ease out, and then still get that retirement on that top end. So I mean, and if you get full, you get about 8%. So then you go. Fine. So then you go, and then you can, again, like you said, go coach somewhere else or do a college deal or whatever you want to do, and still get that TRS retirement and get something else. I mean, it is a good deal. I know I kind of like my gig there at the school. It's a nice retirement.
Yeah, exactly. And so all that, everything we've just talked about plays into what keeps coaches, what doesn't keep coaches. And so it's cool when you see a coaching staff that have grown together. And in saying that, we've seen coaches that are successful and they've had 6 coordinators in 6 years because they're the exact opposite. They want their guys to move on. Like, I want to teach you this, and then I want you to carry this on to another program, and you build it. And, and I want a coaching tree. So, that all depends, because like Jeff Traylor comes from a coaching tree that nobody would even think of, Danny Long of Jacksonville. But if you really go look at that, that's where that started. And Danny Long started in Marshall. And so that all those trees grow together because of that, these coaches moving around and such.
Right on. Hey, welcome, Corey. Nice to see you.
What's going on? Must be talking about.
Y'all have anything more to say about Wimberley before we jump onto the China Spring?
Yeah, we got to talking about Surratt and Carthage, Corey. So yeah, you're.
Well, I mean, wasn't that much to talk about. Terry was right. It's a wrap.
I will say this, Chris. I would have liked to have seen this game with Cash McCollum back at Wimberley.
Oh after seeing him play, yeah.
I don't think he completely changes it by any stretch, and I think Cody Stevens is going to be a really good quarterback. But I would have loved to seen senior Cash McCollum playing this Carthage defense and see what he could have done.
Well, just if nothing else, for his stature, he's a taller quarterback. I think has a better vision. So I don't know. You're right. I would have liked to seen that too. I think obviously he performed a lot better today, but there's a whole lot of I guess situations why he performed better.
All right, so let's go ahead and go to that game. So I want to ask this question before the court of Lone Star Gridiron, as China Spring comes back and beats Bernie 24-21.
Yeah.
When it was 21-0, did anybody think the game was close to being over? Because it never felt, even though Bernie was moving China Spring around, it just felt like all that was kind of fluky. You had one touchdown pass that went through 3 different hands. Even the second touchdown pass, the receiver bobbled it, popped it up, and he caught it, and that was a 3rd and 12. So they probably, if he drops that, they don't get points there. And it just kind of felt like China Spring was just trying to find their footing. But once they did on that last touchdown drive in the first half, I kind of felt like, the game just changed right there.
Yep.
This is not going to stay 21-7.
Yeah, that Bernie line, like I said, early on was doing well. But I think the second half, that offensive line couldn't do anything. So I saw it change, and I don't think it's because, now we're not getting fluke plays. It was an adjustment that China Spring made. So, I think that was a bigger factor than than Bernie not being lucky anymore.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned about the luck part. The first touchdown I saw, he had the bobble and he caught it, and I'm like, oh god, here comes Bernie, and then we got to hear this for the rest of the night. And then he scored again, and then I'm looking at his 21-0, and I'm like, what quarter is it? So it's not even halftime yet.
Yeah.
It's too much time on the clock, and once China Springs settled in, you know now everything started to take place. Both teams matched up very well.
Yes.
Um, and that's the other thing about it. But once China Springs settled in, it became a game, and it became a game in the trenches. And I think China Springs actually won that battle late in the game, and it kind of got to him because after you take away the big play from Bernie, and next thing you know, China Springs making their plays and they're making it a game, and they end up winning the game. And I'm not gonna lie, I look back and I went away and looked back at the game. I'm like, wow, this game's that close. I kind of felt it, but you wanted to see the game eventually end, and it ended the way that I kind of thought it would. But
Yeah.
you said it was going to be a close game.
Yeah.
Well, it ended
exactly
almost
right.
identical to the Franklin game.
Yeah.
Burning out the clock, kicking a field goal, winning it by 3.
It was pretty close to that. And I think the main difference in what put China Spring over the top was the quarterback play. They kind of did the same thing. They tried to take away the run game. McCollum, I mean, he was able to make plays in the passing game. It really opened it up, and then that opened up their run game. I think it was the third touchdown was the long breakaway touchdown up the middle, which last week Chapel Hill couldn't buy anything on the run. They keyed that, but they forced Chapel Hill to try to pass. This week they didn't have that option because McCollum can throw the ball. He can throw it around. He's got weapons. I think that was a difference. They had a quarterback that could do more than one thing, either run or pass, and had weapons. And I think that really helped China Spring get back in the game, as that's what they didn't able to do last week. So I know we talked about.
I was gonna say, give McCollum credit because he kind of started the game like the lights were a little too bright for him. Right. He threw an interception. There was 2 or 3 times that he stepped up way too early into pressure, and he was struggling there early. And I was kind of wondering, like, wow, is he gonna rise to the occasion? And then he finally did. And it's so crazy because both of these teams' stats are almost identical, with Bernie getting the majority of theirs in the first half, China Spring getting theirs in the second half. But it was 346 yards for Bernie and 325 yards for China Spring, both quarterbacks almost identical. 11 of 21, 174 for the sophomore Bays, 14 of 22, 144 for McCollum. So this is as even as you could get in this game.
Hey, Terry, did you see the comment there from Walter Commander?
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry Grant picked against Franklin all year, buddy. We apologize. We can't help what Grant's going to do, but Grant's got Columbus mad at him because he told him that Franklin was going to basically make them want to quit football. So he's not allowed to go anywhere in South Texas for the next, 6 months before people forget about him.
That's what happens.
Vince, you got anything on this game? We're talking
What's up, Vince?
China Spring.
What's up? China Spring is championship football. That's all it is. A lot of times these games, they go a certain way in the first half and people think they're over. A buddy of mine called me just right before the half, and he was kind of like laughing. He was like, it's 21-0. It's like, looks like Bernie is going to win a state title. And he made this comment that, what did he say? He said something like, well, at least Chapel Hill lost to a state winning team. And I said, who said that Bernie won already? And he said, you think they're going to come back? I was like, I'm sorry. He said, and I told him, I said, man, they still got a whole nother half to play. I was like, China Spring, man, they've been here before. So, I mean, I expect for them to do something, to answer back. And as I said that, they had scored. And then, now you're looking at just a 14-point lead. And I'm like, well, it really could turn and go the other way. And then I want to talk about Carthage real quick, too. Terry, listen, You call that Carthage game. Now I picked Carthage, but you
Wasn't
said it was going to be a
call
blowout.
though.
You said it was going to be a blowout, and that big red machine, man, it just ain't no stopping them. But yeah, man,
I
it's
did
just
want to
championship
mention
football.
on the China Spring Bernie game. Towards the end, Bernie forced to punt, and they didn't call it, but yes, that was roughing the kicker. They totally didn't call it. It would have been a first down. Would have totally changed the complexion.
It would
have gave him a 5-yard penalty in the first down. I was like,
but I will say this though. I will say this about that. You got to make good on all the opportunities you get. So you kind of lucked up in the beginning of the game, like Terry said. Those are 2 touchdowns that easily could have been interceptions. So the fact that you got 14 that could have been the other way, like you got to come up with something. You got to cook up something to make sure the ball keeps rolling.
I thought he was going to fake it. If they weren't going to just flat out go for it, I thought they were going to fake it on 4th and 3. I mean, we said it last night with Brock and Franklin. As soon as China Spring got the ball back, you knew what was going to happen.
You knew what
it
was
over.
Happen. Yeah.
I mean, you might as well go for it on 4th and 3. If you don't get it, they score quick enough, you get the ball right back. In today's football world, we literally saw it with China Spring and Stephenville. China Spring throws an interception that they shouldn't have. I don't know why they were throwing the ball. All they had to do was run the clock out against Stephenville. Stephenville interception scores, and China Spring has the ball at their own 20 with 30 seconds left and ends up kicking a game-winning field goal. So it's not like it used to be where under a minute and the game's over. In today's world, give me a minute and give me a good offense, I can get you 80 yards down the field quickly. So that was the moment that they lost the game, in my opinion, not going for it in some way on 4th and 3. Yeah. And I agree, Chris, that by the letter of the law that could have been running into the kicker. But, man, that's a tough one to throw the flag on and completely change the game because it's not like he barreled into him. It's not like he clipped his plant leg, which is really the big thing they look at. He kind of hit him. He fell. And if it had been called, I had no problem with it. But that's like one of those ticky-tack pass interferences that decide a game. I'm almost glad they didn't call it.
I don't feel bad for him. I mean, you had 21 on him. I don't feel bad. Well, you should have did something. If you was going to win this game, it should have. If you were going to win this game, you needed to score in the second quarter. You need to score in the third quarter.
So by your theory, if you get up by 21, they can get whatever bad call they want on you.
It don't matter.
That's all I heard.
Chris, you make up these theories.
That's your theory, man.
I'm not gonna disagree with it because I think it's the same thing, and I'm not saying you don't just get away with a call, but I'm like Terry, you never want to leave a game in the hands of the official.
Oh no, you're right.
Absolutely not.
And I'm not saying that Bernie should go home and say, "Man, we were robbed." And no, they lost the game. They definitely lost the game. But it's as a fan, you're thinking, "Man, if
the punter would have watched the TCU punter this season, maybe he'd have learned. Maybe he'd learn how to fake a little bit better, and he probably would.
That dude was falling, even if it was a fake punt to the up back, he still would fall and hit the ground like he just got his clock clean.
He's gonna get 15 yards regardless.
That's the best acting punter I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, you got to learn how to flop.
Or the worst seeing official. I don't know.
Take some LeBron lessons.
Yeah.
Them's fighting words, right, Terry?
Hey, you're the one that gets all passionate about that, not me.
Come on now, you love you some LeBron.
Oh,
I don't know where you guys have from. Just because we argue about who the best is doesn't mean I love a player. I just acknowledge that they're a great player.
That's Vince's boy.
See, there you go.
Okay that
is not my guy.
They acknowledge that he's a great player. The LeBron.
Remember he went to your Heat. You love
he did
LeBron.
go to my Heat. I did not want him at the time, but he showed up and he made us a champion. So yeah, I'll take.
And he got beat by
the
Mavs.
Didn't want him at the time. Whatever.
At the time, I didn't. I was wanting somebody else because I was a big Dwayne Wade fan, so I didn't really care for LeBron like that.
Oh, I got you.
And ironically, I don't really care about him now. Now that he's gone.
Hey, we should talk Texas high school football though.
I was about to say, you know how good he is? He's got us talking about it, and we're supposed to be talking about Texas high school football championships.
So, any final thoughts on China Springs repeat? Not actually a repeat since it's a new division.
Yeah.
Well, they
I
own.
mean,
Well, I don't want to say they
good
own
job.
Texas
I mean,
4A, but
they made it a game and they turned it around. So yeah.
I think it's incredible. They had two teams repeat, but they moved up a division. I
And
think
they
that's,
both won the exact same way.
yeah, it was almost the exact same game, and so that's what it was kind of cool to me. The kind of the mirror of the two seasons almost. It's very
Aledo is going to try to do it too.
Yeah.
Yeah. and they have a good chance.
Yeah,
honestly,
a really good chance.
I mean, if any of the matchups they got one I think they can handle. So
yeah. Well, let's talk about the South Oak Cliff Port Neches Grove game before we preview tomorrow's stuff. Again, tale of two halves, really. I mean, that one just surprised me how it flipped.
Yeah. Again, my buddy called me and he said, you've been preaching all this Dallas stuff. He said, and look at him now. And I told him, I said, you told me this earlier today. Are you really finna do this right now? And he said, I'm just telling you. He said, it don't look like they're gonna make it. I said, okay, cool. That's fine. We'll see. And then I called him at the end of the third quarter and I said, have you looked at the score yet? And he was like, what score? And I was like, it's 31-17. He was like, there's no way. Ain't no way they did that. And I was like, okay, all right, man. You should go check it out because South Oak Cliff, man, they doing their thing. So we sat there and argued for a little bit, but man, another game where I would say just championship football. They kept their heads in the game. That's the best way to put it. They kept their head in the game. Like some people, man, they get down and then they stay down, but they didn't. So big shout out to them and that coach. What's his name?
Todd.
Jason Todd.
Well, think about it. The three defending state champions, Franklin, China Spring, and South Oak Cliff, two of them were down early. Franklin had to crawl back into the game after it got tied up. All three of them had faced adversity that could have killed their season, and they all responded. That's what state championship football teams do, especially when you're on your back-to-back because you were there last year. Give Jason Todd credit. He's turning into Scott Surratt. This was a team that struggled to pass all year. This was a team in the playoffs that struggled to pass. They were using 2 and 3 running backs, and he kept telling the media how they were using 2 or 3 running backs. So what do they do in the state championship game? They throw for the most yards they've thrown all year long. He trusts his players when it came time to it. And I guarantee you he was telling that offense, I trust y'all, but I'm not going to pass until I really, really, really need it. And give P&G credit. They shut them down in the first half, so South Oak Cliff just started going over the top. And that's right there was where the game decided.
And one thing I noticed too, well, first of all, P&G, they came out and they started heavy. I think, was it the first or second play where they scored? Was it the first play where they scored or something?
Third play of the game.
Third play? Okay.
Third play of the game.
But if you notice throughout the game, as it looked like it was getting out of hand early, Sox coach Jason Todd, he just never seemed to like flip out at all. He just kept his composure. He just sat there, like trying to understand, like, okay, how do I attack their offense? How do I approach their defense? And it took a little while to get the wheels rolling, but man, by the second half, it was on.
So here's how I go. PNG gave up 4 points. I don't know for what reason they couldn't punt the football today. And you lose special teams that way. You lose a quarterback.
It happens.
Lose a quarterback in the fourth quarter. And it literally, South Oak Cliff knew that they had them once they scored, late in the end of the second quarter. It was like, okay, we got you. Like you can't score any more points on us. We got you.
They figured it out.
You lucked up. You lucked up a little bit, and you scored a couple touchdowns. We know you're kind of a little afraid of us at this point because you know it's coming.
And honestly, the first touchdown was blown coverage.
They dominated the trench. They couldn't throw the football. Like you said, it's probably the best secondary in the state of Texas. They dominated the football. Eventually, they got a pick six. The game was over at this point. And it is one of those things where you say you play the game. South Oak Cliff played the game. They didn't rush it. They said, you're going to come, you're going to fall into the net regardless. And I tell Brett knows this in a basketball game, when you trap, you either press or you set a trap. You don't necessarily have to press when you set a trap. You let them come to you. That's exactly what South Oak Cliff did. We're not going to press you. You're going to come to us. That's exactly what they did. They dominated the game in the backfield. The defense dominated the game, as a matter of fact. And they played right into the hands of PNG traveled. We discussed this. PNG traveled. It was probably the biggest game today that they played with capacity-wise, and they came out. But like I said, South Oak Cliff dominated the game in the second half, and it was nothing that PNG could do.
Nothing.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see what the stat popular or the attendance stat was. I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, I have not either.
I think the game was sealed on the Muhammad pick six.
And
also the quarterback got hurt on the same play. Those two things right there in combination pretty much sealed the fate of
could have been a penalty. That could have been a penalty.
That could have been one that was on that line. I agree.
I'll just like to give a shout out. That's a Texas commit with that pick six. So did y'all see that Hill now switched to Texas today?
Yes.
Oh yeah, the linebacker that had committed to Aggies.
Yeah. Sark's got him a class coming in. This 23 class could be the game changer.
He better.
They said about Jimbo this year, I thought.
Well, that's Jimbo though. I could have told you he was going to tear the program up. He's the same thing at Florida State. He came in, started off all right, and then he left.
Started all right, and then he destroyed it.
He left in shambles.
So I think the stat. I mean, this sounds crazy to say because it's 32,000, but 32,000 is the attendance, and I think that's a lot lower than what people thought was going to be.
Thought it was.
They were saying 50, 60,000. I think at one point they were looking.
Well, Coach Todd wanted Operation 60,000, so that's what he was trying to get. But I dare to say it'll probably be a little bit like that tomorrow because a lot of South Oak Cliff
because
be at the game tomorrow.
I think tomorrow's going to be the day where you hit that 60 mark
because you got DeSoto and Duncanville play tomorrow, so I'm pretty sure.
I think that helps.
If it was me, I wouldn't be going home.
As much as Duncanville and everybody talking about them, it's DeSoto and Duncanville, two district foes, two programs that are rivals but get along very well. Like it's a very respectful.
Could you imagine if they'd have had South Oak Cliff playing tomorrow too, so they had all three Dallas on the same day?
I think they did that on purpose. They didn't want them to play all three at the same.
Well, that's the way to clear the stadium. That's the way they have the schedule set up.
They always flip the D1s and D2s, but you make a point. You make a point. Like let's do it. If you're gonna do it, why not flip it and make it work like that and have 95,000 people?
How many other times you gonna have it like this? Go ahead and let it be what it is. Yeah.
Is it controversial to say that a lot of the South Texas schools don't like some of them don't like the fact that it's played in the DFW every year?
Yeah, the fans don't. The coaches love it.
No, that's not controversial at all.
That's not controversial. But the coaches,
I didn't think so because
I heard the
coaches.
Talk to the coaches, and they all love coming up to Dallas.
Well,
and the reason why
Chris's buddy
and
doesn't
the reason
like
why is because when they did it down in Houston, and Chris, that's when me and Chris, I signed on to come on the site. They did it perfectly fine down there. The people at then Reliant were perfectly nice, but when you come up to AT&T, it's just done different. And even the Houston coaches, I've talked to many of them. They're like, "Yeah, it'd be nice, but man, it's so great to go up there. We don't have to do anything. We don't have to take care of anything." They literally say, "Hey, coach, you come. Y'all get ready to play. There's your locker. You don't have to do anything else." And no other stadium until somebody else can match that with a dome stadium, they're going to keep coming up to AT&T.
I'm interested to hear what Chris can get out of the Refugio coach. Did you hear his comments about not liking it? He had some post-game comments about not liking coming to Dallas.
Well, yeah. I mean, I haven't talked to him about it since that time, but he still hasn't answered my text.
Yeah. Well, I think listening to it, he basically said that they got one less day of practice than the teams that are closer because they get to stay at home and drive from their house basically to the game, whereas as in Refugio had to drive up and stay the night and all that. So, I mean, I understand kind of, but I mean,
teams can get there 3 hours before the game and they have plenty of time. Everybody else has to come in the night before.
Right. Yeah, but did you see that stat about since Matt Stepp went back since 1980 and the average mileage to each stadium since 1980 state champions, the closest was AT&T Stadium. So
Like
that
every
was
year, but
still,
like 2 years, I think. Only twice was it not, I think.
yeah. Well, he was just doing the whole average from 80 to now,
Oh,
just to
okay.
average
Right.
out.
Well, there was
It was
every single year, I think he did every year broke down too. And there's
oh,
only
did he?
like
Okay, I haven't seen that one.
there was only like 2 years that another stadium had the better average as far as.
But the answer still is major stadium in the Austin area. That's central.
Well, I've always said,
What
why
about
doesn't the
Waco?
UIL just build them a dome
Well,
stadium?
I've talked to Charles, head of the UIL, many times. I said, dude, you need to build UIL Stadium
50,000.
because you've got so many events going on all year, and you can rent it out for the times you're not doing it.
It's just like the basketball. Waco, Baylor's building their stadium there. There's a big dust up about it moving to Waco. I know the girls want a different site, and I heard the girls are trying to move it to Waco. So I would like to see it in Waco. It's a little bit closer to San Antonio, but I'd like to see it in Waco too. I mean, I think it's a nice site. So I don't know if it'll never. I don't want to say it's never happen, but like you said, why don't UIL the money that you're making, you can get some people, build your own stadium, your baseball. It's kind of like the Disney Wild World of Sports.
Complex.
You just build a UIL complex and you play it there every year.
Football, baseball, basketball, swimming, natatorium, the whole shooting.
Yeah, because if you build a dome, you can change it to whatever sporting events you'd like.
Yep.
I just feel like they're gonna find another reason to complain.
They will. They will.
Jerry Jones is gonna complain.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jerry gonna complain.
The city of San Antonio is gonna complain because the big one is commerce.
Okay, so here's the thing about Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones, he might make some money on concession stands, but he's losing money to put this on.
He does amazing things for Texas high school football.
Yeah, and for all the jokes about Jones, the reason that they started going to Texas Stadium more when Jerry Jones was because it was cheaper. I talked to this coaches in the early 2000s when I was broadcasting there. It was cheaper for the schools to go to Texas Stadium than sometimes it was to go to like Garland ISD or Plano that were nicer stadium or nice stadiums, but not Texas.
He was just helping them out.
And that's always been his thing. And he's smart. How do you get Cowboy fans from Houston? Have a couple Houston teams come up and play in state championships in the Cowboy Stadium and fall in love with it. That's genius marketing right there. It's Chris always likes to say, it's the evergreen fan. You're just always churning in fans because a 5-year-old going to Dallas for 4 times in a row, if they're from Galena Park, North Shore, they might fall in love with the Cowboys over the Texans because of what they're seeing each time they come up.
Well, no, that's not hard to do because the Texans are so terrible.
Oh, here we go.
That is true.
If you fall in love with the Cowboys because of AT&T Stadium, you're not a fan.
Dude, I fell in love with the Dallas Cowboys because my dad was a fan, and I love the blue star. When we're 7 years old,
I will say this though. So if UIL did create a stadium, I don't feel like I would be attached to it because, like y'all are saying, you see the pros play at the at AT&T Stadium, at the Arlington Stadium, and that's where I want to be. I want to be there. Yeah. I want to see those locker rooms. I want to be able to walk around in those corridors and stuff like that. But if I'm just playing in a stadium that's just built for us high schoolers and stuff, it just doesn't have that.
But what if the stadium is only, and this is where I don't know if it'd be cost feasible, but only the state championship games played there. Like no other football game is played at that UIL dome except for the state championship. Then that becomes a hallowed place to go to.
I don't think that would be possible. I think they'd have to play games there.
Feasible though.
Yeah, they'd have to. As hard as it is, and coming from Chapel Hill this year, us having to go all the way to San Antonio because of basically they want to play in a dome, and there's not one between here and Dallas. If you plant one right in the middle, say Waco, it's kind of in the middle. That's going to be an ideal site for these regions that are kind of separated apart. So you're not going to be able to just have that as a state. And like Chris said, that the financial, you wouldn't be able, it wouldn't be financially feasible not to be able to put these games there. I mean, because there's some of these schools, the way they have to break the regions down, that's a good middle ground. and it's needed.
Yeah, and that's a $1 billion complex the way we're describing it.
Yeah.
Too. So
Right.
it's a huge
Well,
investment.
and one of the fallacies is how much the UIL actually makes. I
Yeah.
always laugh at that because you can easily go find their stuff. It's all state, so it's all open record.
Yep.
I think it's like when people say, "I don't want." The only reason they want a fourth playoff team is because it makes them money. Do y'all really think they make a lot of money when a 4-6 team is playing a 10-0 team in the first round? That's not how that works.
No.
They make hardly any money, and so it's just they got to do something for. They're losing money, in my opinion, by not having a UIL complex that they can control everything about it financially.
Right.
Yeah. You want to read I was going to say this about it too. A lot of what they could do is like have UIL sanctioned, not UIL on y'all UIL sanctioned, but have like regional matchup games where you have repeat champions play at, the PNG or a South Oak Cliff play Duncanville at that particular site, and have more regional matchups there instead, like pregame, almost like bowl games. And I think that's something that they could possibly do. I'd like to see some variety there and have like a lot of preseason games or have like a preseason slate, like something big for the state of Texas that they could actually do.
Yeah, like a little classic or something, Corey.
Yeah,
Well, just do the state champions of each division and play each other. Boom, that's your first game for them. It's fun. That'd be a great way to introduce week one, UIL Waco. You've got South Oak Cliff, playing whoever wins.
I like that. I wish there was something more that they do. Since there's no bowl division, you don't have to worry about wins and losses in the state of Texas. Just worry about district. Worry about you win district, or you win the games of district, you go to the playoffs.
It would be wonderful if there was a board game where you could play those state champions against each other.
Absolutely.
Hey, I think there is one of those, Chris.
What a segue!
Segue.
Look at that.
FNL. That's all right.
Say, taking up from my my segue. I was going to go there, but you beat me to it today, Chris.
Jumped you on there. You know, the creator of Segway died by falling off of a cliff on a Segway. That's a true story too.
Wow.
Just a warning, Chris. Just a warning. All right. So what are your thoughts on tomorrow? We've got the big one, of course. We've talked about that a little bit. I'm more excited about DeSoto versus Austin Vandegrift. I think that is going to be a sneaky, really, really good game.
Look, for the record, everybody in the state is getting it wrong. It is Leander Vandegrift.
Yes, you're right, 100%. But everybody calls it Austin. Yeah. But what do y'all think about that game?
I think that one could go either way for sure. Because Vandegrift, we've got a guy that writes for Lone Star Gridiron who spent the whole season following Vandegrift. So we have articles about every one of their games. And as you mentioned earlier, a week or so ago, Terry, Drew Sanders is a genius. I mean, he knows what he's doing, and he's got horses, and he's beaten good teams this year. So I think he can hang.
The barely win theory is in effect, Chris.
But which barely win? I never get the answer on
the barely win theory.
I know, but the barely win and you win again, or barely win?
No, there's only one theory. The barely
There's
win.
Only
you
one
don't win.
barely win theory. You can't barely win if you're. It only works if you are the favorite to win. It only works if you're the favorite to win. If you're the favorite to win,
Carthage and Wimberley, somebody busted the theory.
Yeah, but so let me just explain it to you this way.
Theories don't apply to Carthage this year. No theories apply to Carthage.
Yeah, if you're the favorite,
nothing Carthage, they have a halo over them. There's nothing that applies to them.
No theories for Carthage.
Sometimes you're the chosen one, and that is a chosen one theory.
Yeah.
Wait, that's a theory on a theory. See, I told y'all he's got the yarn with the little pin tabs. He's got a big old board.
He's got his board back behind him.
Hey, that board. It's the board of truth.
The board behind it, man.
Hey,
board of
our fans love our theories, Terry. So that's what they come to hear. There's never know when there's going to be a new theory developed.
That's what they tell themselves anyway.
Yeah,
exactly. But you say hang. I mean, I don't think that DeSoto is a prohibitive favorite in this game by any stretch. I do think
feel
they
like
play
they
the
are.
toughest
I just
schedule.
want them to win. I don't feel like they're the favorite, but I just want them to win.
I feel like they beat Geyer by that much. That's what makes me feel like they are the favorite, just because.
Well, all the Dallas media thinks they're a favorite.
Right. The
Dallas DFW sweep.
Okay, but all the Leander Austin are probably thinking Austin's a favorite. I mean, that doesn't. You make it sound like only DFW writers.
That's because Chris is anti-Dallas. We know he's.
Oh yeah, I know very much so. But he's a Cowboy fan. He's a Cowboy fan.
I'm a Cowboy fan.
Well,
I had an office in Dallas. And the guy that ran our office in Dallas was a thief and took a lot of money.
Well, I mean, only so many people can be Houston Texan fans. They're so bad every year. You lose them probably.
One day we're gonna be back on top. We're gonna be back on top.
The last game tomorrow.
When have y'all been on top?
Never.
Listen, like I
being
said,
up 24-0 against Kansas City does not count as
when
being on
we
top.
was up 24-0, everybody was afraid.
No, they weren't.
Everybody feared
except
us.
Patrick Mahomes.
Except for Pat.
Hey, even Bill O'Brien was afraid.
He got ice water in the
game like he was. Bill O'Brien was afraid. He was afraid to call plays.
That was probably the worst day of my life.
I think the worst day is when you pick to be a Houston Texan fan.
Oh, man. Come on, Terry.
Yeah, that was not a good day for you, I'm sure.
Terry, I'm glad you're in here because I get like triple teamed every week for being the only Cowboy fan. So it's nice to have another.
It's okay. You know, when it comes to the Cowboys, you just have to sit and wait. Y'all gonna self-destruct eventually.
Probably. We self-destruct every year.
Probably every year.
and then, you know, as that season,
I guarantee an L Sunday.
Oh, man.
I guarantee an L.
I could see that.
Barely
because
win
that game doesn't
prove it correct. I guarantee.
Vince, you're going to run off Walter. You're going to run off Walter here.
On top.
See, I'll say this about Dallas. When the season ends, and it will in the divisional round, I will be able to turn the lights off of my Cowboy man cave and look at the 5 Super Bowls that they've won and go, you know what? It's still a good day.
Still a good day.
So not only will you can look at them, but you have to dust them off as well.
I do. But they're there to dust.
You gotta give Houston Texans credit. They don't want to clean a Super Bowl trophy, so they just don't win them.
Y'all excuse Corey.
It's coming. Corey. I can't wait till one day.
2072 Houston Texans Super Bowl champs when Pat Mahomes Jr. is the quarterback.
He said 2072. No, the Austin Leander Vandergriff. I'm just gonna call him Vandy. Okay, I'm just gonna call him Vandy for the sake of it. All right, they're the Vandy of Texas. All right, beating Katy was to me. It was a surprise. You went against two power. You went against two really powerhouses. No one. I'll say no one. A lot of people didn't think DeSoto was going to get past Geyer, and then a lot of people didn't think Vandergriff was going to get past Katy. It was a Katy versus Geyer championship. So you have two teams that wasn't supposed to win that are playing. To me, Vandergriff is very tricky and very sneaky. To me, that's going to be the game that you have to watch for DeSoto. Now, do I think DeSoto can win? Absolutely. Do I think it's going to be a challenge? Yes. So we're going to see how it goes. For the DFW, I'm hoping DeSoto wins.
Well, Corey, I have a question about your barely win theory. Okay, because start of the season, I've been talking about Dripping Springs all year about how they moved up and how they're a great team. Dripping Springs beat Vandergrift first game of the season, right? Very close game. But right before the Katy game, Vandy beat Dripping Springs 27-24, barely won.
They were underdogs in that game, though.
He's saying you have to be the favorite for that theory to kick in.
That's the theory. That's the key.
You have to be the favorite.
You got too many caveats. Then they beat Katy 38-35.
So,
but you have to be the.
So they have to be the favorite and then barely win, and then they're going to lose the next game.
Trust me, Chris. We've been giving him grief all season for his theories.
So the Cowboys barely beat the Houston Texans. Therefore, they will lose against the Jacksonville Jaguars.
It don't make no sense to me. I'm not gonna lie to you, but watch it be right. Watch it be right.
Well, in the NFL, I can believe what he's saying in high school, but in the NFL, I actually think the opposite. Usually, when a good team gets almost beat, that usually kind of rights their ship for a moment. They go, okay, we kind of started letting our heads get ahead of us and all that. So I'll be curious to test that theory out. But in high school, again, we've talked about that. Do the close games make you a better team, or do you eventually just get wore out? And Franklin came back and won. So I'm going to say they bounced that. But there were times in that first half, Franklin looked gassed. Like they looked like like they were ready to just bowl over and they were done. So give them credit for finding that reserve, but you got to wonder if that Region 3 schedule in that district had just Franklin was just kind of teetering there for a moment.
I think that could have really affected Refugio.
Yes, exactly. I think Refugio's another good one because they didn't have a lot of depth. Not that a 2A school
going to have a ton of depth. They were an underdog.
Mm-hmm.
They were an underdog to Timpson, not a favorite.
Okay. Yeah.
But they were a favorite over Holly.
They were.
Yeah.
A lot of people
except for Terry. Terry picked Holly. I think you were the only one.
Yeah, I just they were an older team. I'm very, and that's why I think Franklin ended up beating Columbus. Franklin was an older team. There's a difference in a 17-year-old boy and a 14-year-old kid. I mean, there really is, unless you're Jaden Jackson of Franklin, and he's already 6'1" and 190. But for most, I mean, at some point that becomes an issue in a game. And Refugio, I mean, they just kind of got Holly just grinded them down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who else we got? Vandergrift.
We got Alito and
that's College Station. The rematch of a great game in 2017, and nobody's really talking about it this week.
Well, I didn't expect College Station or Alito to be here, honestly, and I'm sure a lot of people didn't either.
No,
everybody was talking about Longview and anybody else down there. I was thinking College Station and A&M Consolidated might rematch in their little regional, and that ended up happening is that A&M Consolidated got knocked out like in the second round. So I just didn't see College Station making it through, but I really think that it sets up good for Alito. I think they've got a pretty good chance to add another ring.
Well, I mean, let's remember College Station was here last year and lost to a Katy Patel team in overtime. And to be honest, that's a Katy Patel team that was 5A in name only. Their numbers were already a 6A school. College Station lost Marquise Collins before the season even started, best running back in Texas. And they lost their coach. He went to Decatur. Stoney Pryor stepped in. And I thought Smithson Valley was going to make it through. I thought we were going to finally get Smithson Valley back into state. They had moved back from 6A into 5A, back at their playing weight. And College Station beat them 26-21. And I kind of have a feeling that College Station might be the favorite in this game. I kind of think that they beat Alito.
My theory was always you beat the man, then you become the man. So you beat Longview.
But they did.
But Longview wasn't the man. They didn't win state last year.
Well, but they were the number one team in the state. They were the number one team in the state.
But, I mean, let's be honest, and I'm not saying this just because I'm from Marshall, but Longview has a habit of being the number one team that doesn't make it to the state championship game. There's always a team that just plays them a little bit better in the semifinals or in the region finals. It seems to all. I mean, this is the fourth or fifth Longview team in the last 10 years. One of them won state, and at least 8 others probably should have went state, and just they didn't for whatever reason.
I will say that when you think about these rankings, it's really just opinionated. So I can see. I'm not a big fan of the rankings.
Man,
I'm not either. That's like the Brock thing.
Yeah, I hate them.
Brock goes 0-4.
It's okay, Vince, because you pick the rankings and then we ask you why, and you be like, "Well, I don't know," and then you can't tell us why.
Yeah, I can't.
Brock
and then you see something crazy happen, like Longview losing, and they had an hour and a half to come up with 4 plays.
Yeah, that's what we said last night. But the ranking thing, Brock loses to 4 teams. 3 of them are in 4A. One of them is a 3A state champion now, but Gunner was a top 2 team in 3A, yet they dropped all the way out of the rankings. And then when Matt Diggs, who comes onto our shows occasionally, he kind of pointed that out to Twitter, like, oh, wow, why is Brock Owen, at that time they were 4-4. Why are they still not in the rankings? And then the very next week they get put into the rankings. So either Brock deserved it before his rant, or the rant put people for some reason. Oh, well, let's just throw Brock in there. That's why the rankings it's all
It
BS and opinion.
It doesn't
and
really
fun.
mean anything.
But it's
No.
fun to talk about, though.
I do. Yeah, it is. It is fun
It's
to
for
talk
the
about and
sports
argue
writers,
about. It just,
for fans and sports
you really
writers.
don't. You can't. It's hard. You can't use it though to say, well, this team is going to be the team that makes it. I mean, so
Only in
I get what Terry's
the
saying about the Longview thing because it's like, yeah, like they were ranked in the state, but at the same time, that was just an opinion that everybody had. That didn't mean anything.
I mean,
Um,
you look good when you see it. No, don't get me wrong.
and
Like
and I mean, obviously it must have meant, but at the
you
same
know
time,
which
yeah,
team's a good team if you've seen
it
it.
must have
Trust me.
meant something because obviously look how far they made it. Um, man, I don't know. I don't know who's gonna win that game. I have no
We
idea.
honestly, we honestly do our rankings in our show just
Yeah.
for the fun of
Just
we
for the
get to
fun of
argue
it.
back and forth of
Yeah.
why Vince didn't pick Malakoff up top all year, or
Yeah.
why Corey ignores Kaufman even though they're East Texas.
I have nobody knows.
Just for the
Corey
fun of
doesn't
it.
know.
So I think, I mean, it's
Geographic
everyone's
challenge.
opinion, and so it's fun to talk about. It makes for good conversation. So
But yeah. So with that being said, if I gotta choose a team, I'm a I'm gonna go with Elite. I'm gonna go with Alito just because I think that the defense travels. That's what I'm gonna go with. Longview, they had a pretty good offense all year, and Alito kind of just snuffed them out. So that's what I'm gonna go with.
So, do we think the final game tomorrow is going to be another epic one? I know Chris is going to say North Shore. We're going to be all against him. What are we thinking about tomorrow, Chris?
Well, I think you just said what we're thinking about tomorrow. Yeah, I'm thinking North Shore is going to 4-peat against Duncanville.
Do you think it's going to be close, or do you think it's going to be?
I think it'll be real close. I think it'll be close like that one that had the Hail Mary the last second. That was a great one because I was standing in the corner of that end zone, outside the end zone, right when
Mhm.
he caught that one. That was just it was such a cool experience.
Well, I'm hoping Duncanville can pull it off. One thing I don't want to happen, whatever happens in the first half, just don't give up. Obviously, we've seen that already. Just just keep your head down, keep grinding. Do not give up on the game. I don't want to see a blowout. Not for the last game.
I'm ended on this. I'm ended on this for me. Coach Todd said it best tonight. He says when Duncanville and DeSoto wins tomorrow, it's going to be a three-way Southside to realest. So if you know anything about Dallas, all three schools, Southside to realest, Duncanville, DeSoto, South Oak Cliff, they all win. I'm going for it. I'm going for the sweep tomorrow. So I'm not picking anybody else.
Well, I have
Dallas
to tell
over
you,
everything.
you can't trust my picks because out of all my picks, what's the one I got right? South Oak Cliff.
That's a
I
good
think
one. That's a good one to pick. But it's going to be good. Like I think the better games are going to be, as you see, the games have gotten better progressively, and I think the games
Yeah.
tomorrow will be good. That Vandergrift game is going to be pretty good. Maybe the best game all day tomorrow.
It
I
might
sure
be.
hope so.
So
Yeah.
Cool. Any
Should be good.
final thoughts, guys?
Just ready to see how tomorrow shakes out. I think it's going to
Yeah.
be. I think it's been. There's been some good teams.
Yeah.
That maybe made for some bad games, but we've got to see some really good teams play, even if the game was lopsided. Gunter showed their how good they are. Carthage applied, even though, like Terry said, they didn't play their best game, but they still look dominant. Yeah, 9 rings. Someone's got one for every
in a
field.
row.
When you go to
In a row.
do you go to when you get to 10, do you call A&M or do you call Alabama and say, listen, I want his job when he leaves? I mean, you like 10. I mean, come on, that's 9. He's gotten 8 there.
So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see tomorrow. I do think tomorrow should be the best day overall as far as overall games. I think a lot of those matchups, there's not a real solid favorite in any three of those. I don't think. I mean, you got a favorite obviously, but I don't think it's a real over lopsided matchup.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if any of those 6 teams win.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I totally agree.
Yeah. Before I go, to the Dallas schools, listen, South Oak Cliff, they set the tone tonight. finish it up, get the three-peat, get the triple crown. I think that would be amazing.
Oh man.
They set the tone though. You finish it up. Let's do it.
I love it. Hey, and don't forget, go to LoneStarGridiron.com. We've got previews of every game. The ones for tomorrow are up there now, so go listen to it. You'll hear all these guys' opinions and some more. Lots of good stuff. And yeah, that's it.
All right.
All right.
All right, guys, take it easy.
All right. We'll see you everyone tomorrow. Enjoy the games tomorrow, guys.
Gridiron Warriors take the field in an epic battle that is larger than life. It is called Texas high school football. Only one show can bring the greatest sport from the greatest state into focus. Lone Star Gridiron.
Gridiron.com. Access the complete history of Texas high school football, over 100 years of information, win-loss records, coaching histories, individual stats, records, and more. Lone Star Gridiron, the authority on Texas high school football.